Protesting violence against women in South Africa, excuse me, in a show of unity at a gender-based summit. South Africa is considered to be one of the most dangerous countries for women. And just today, an SABC report shows that some managers there and HR accused of covering up sexual offences. I mean, this has got to stop. Some ask, does a woman have more chance of being raped than even learning to read in this country? I'm joined in the studio by activist and gender-based violence survivor, Phindile Ngcube, legal advocacy and litigation manager at Sonke Gender Justice, Kayan Lang, CEO of Soul City Institute, Lebo Ramafoko. Thank you very much all for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
What is your story? Tell us your story.
Okay, I was raped in Tembisa, where I was staying, and I opened a case. And when I opened a case, the boys that raped me told me in front of the police that I'm just I'm just wasting my time. And okay, I attended the case maybe for 6 months. After 6 months, the magistrate told the boys that the case was struggle off the roll, and I couldn't understand that. No one explained that to me. And the CIT that was having my case was not on the country by then, was in Maputo for the vacation. And it was traumatic because I just saw the boys going out. I don't understand what's happening. And there was this lady came to me because I was crying a lot. And she said she can help me. She got people that they can come to my house and help me. I said, okay, they can come. They can come anytime, any day. Like I need help. I'm very angry right now. And then it was a drama and a trauma for us to go outside the court because the boys and the friends were waiting outside for us to come out so that they can do whatever they want. And the police just watched all the stories. They didn't do anything. So we had to go to the dustbins and look for cans so that we can break it and have something to protect ourselves to go outside the court. And we tried to go, and okay, my grandfather was still there. We went home, and then this woman called Kerry Shelver came to my house and told me that they can help me with everything. They can reopen the case. I didn't know that even the case was closed because I don't know anything about systems. And then they can open the case again, and they can help me with the place of safety. And they took me to a place of safety while we do all of those things. And then we opened a case again. And it was we opened it in Wynberg Magistrate Court. It was at Alexander. I testified in court for 8 boys. And when the sentence needed to be out now, and they found out that the lawyer that was in court was not on practice.
And they raped you for days?
Yeah, so I don't understand why is that my fault, because I'm not on a practicing side or whatever in the law side. They said I must start a case down. So we asked the people from 1-in-9 with Kerry to help us to give us a transport to go to High Court. We force ourselves to High Court. We sit there at High Court. They arrested us, they beat us, but we forced and sit there that we wanted a date in High Court. We don't want a date in any case, in any court anymore. They end up, it was 4:30 maybe. They give us a date, the sooner date that we asked for. And then we went home, we come back on that day. And I was still attending with the boys. The boys were outside. We were still fighting outside with the parents. We were fighting, calling me all those names. They tell me that I'm not from here because they see my surname. I have to go home. They came at my house with 30,000 rand to ask me to close the case and go at my house. And I asked them, where do I live? They said, you're not from South Africa. And I said, okay, it's fine. I will show you that I'm a South African because I want this case to be open again. And I testified. The thoughts that the prosecutor told me about, because they told me that in a rape case, the perpetrator is supposed to get 25 years for the rape before all of those things that they counted in court. And I was very surprised because not even one of my boys gets 25 years. And I was very angry when they started to take up the sentence, and I just went outside the court. I didn't know what they said to others. And when they come out, I just wanted to go home because I was feeling a lot of pain in my body. My body was very hot. And before I got home, because I was sitting in an Kerry's car, before I got home, I was like having bubbles all over my body. And they took me to the clinic. And they told me that I have, I don't know what is it, I don't know what did they call those things. And I went home. That's where I started to get sick. And I was sick from that time until now.
I mean, what a harrowing story, and it says so much about the way women are treated and the justice system. I'm going to bring in the Minister of Women in the Presidency, Batabile Dlamini, who is in our Cape Town studio. Minister, good to have you with us. I'm sure you picked up some of that story, and I know that you know Pindile's story. I mean, sad indictment of what's happening in the country.
Hello?
Hello, Minister. I'm just wondering if you can hear me. I mean, we were just listening to Pendile Nkube's story of, rape and the lack of justice. And I'm just wondering, what it means for South Africa and what a sad indictment it is.
This means that South Africa is still a patriarchal country and with institutionalized patriarchy, and which is found, unfortunately, in our families, but also in areas that have to defend us as women, like the judiciary, the police, justice, and the availability of resources and places where women can stay if they have challenges. So this is a very bleak picture. And what is good is that we've just had a summit that expressed all the issues that are facing women, but also came up with a decision of having a structure that will look into the program of action, but also the gender machinery, as well as a structure that is going to look into the issues of violence against women and children.
And let me ask you why anybody should feel confident in these proposals, considering it seems that very little has been done. Very little has been done under your watch as far as women is concerned. What guarantees do you have in place that this will change?
Firstly, there must be commitment from the leadership on the issues of violence against women, dealing with them, and a number of stakeholders. But the President has committed to ensuring that violence against women is eradicated. He has committed the budget, because the budget has been a problem, but also to the program of action, as well as the review of the Criminal Procedure Act, as well as the review of all the laws that have to do with violence against women. For instance, a Sexual Offences Act, and also trying to ensure that Domestic Violence Act becomes applicable.
Okay, I'm just going to throw in some numbers here. I mean, if you look at this graph that we've got, I mean, the increase from 2016 to 2018, it's gone up. Sexual offences, murder, attempted murder, assault with GBH, common assaults, all gone up by several thousands. And I mean, that's just, it's just wrong. I mean, sexual offences, 50,000 sexual offences, assault with GBH, 53,263. Lebo, I know that you work with women on the ground. You see this every day. What's going wrong?
I think a number of things are going wrong. I think we spend a lot of time neglecting this issue. and actually having various systems, fall apart that had to deal with gender-based violence. Civil society organizations have asked for a plan that can be costed, like we have responded with HIV, where we can cost it, because there are different elements that you've got to deal with when you are dealing with gender-based violence. You've got to deal with prevention, which is addressing the social norms. You've got to deal with the support that survivors like Usis Pindile get, when they report. You need to overhaul the entire criminal justice system, including how the police make it impossible for many women, as we had with the story, to replace
how difficult they make it.
Exactly. You've got to make sure that there is support, because long after the case has been heard in any court, the woman has to pick up her life and really survive. You've got to make sure that there is justice. And all of these things, various civil society organizations have been speaking and saying they need to be done. And for many years, we have not been able to do them.
Where's the justice here? Is it functioning as it should do?
Jane, regrettably, my sister Lebo here and Sister Pindile has highlighted the gaps in combating gender-based violence and accurately touched on. I'd like to briefly touch on just some examples of the gaps in the laws. So we have what we're proposing, the sexual offences courts, to deal specifically with sexual violence incidences. But unfortunately, there is no legislation that indicates how this should be operating. So that's a huge gap in itself. We're looking at, the Minister Dlamini had mentioned issues of ingrained patriarchal and structural norms in our society. Our laws per se, in two recent cases, will point this out. The unethical and aggressive line of questioning, for example, in the Umotosa trial, for example, and how it is not a victim-centered approach, and we seem to emphasize the rights of the accused, but we fail to actually acknowledge that there are victims or survivors in this matter that want to see the justice. The delays, the examples given where police, for example, there was a woman at the summit who is serving a life sentence for self-defense, for murdering her husband. He was, throughout the years, abusive. She tried to open a case. She wasn't successful. And the response from police was, this is a family matter. You need to sort it out within yourselves. So and this is not unusual.
It seems incredibly backward when it comes to dealing with women. Cyril Ramaphosa was making an address today in Parliament, and he addressed the Omotosa case. Let's just listen to what he said.
I have 5 operations on my stomach. I will stand up, guys.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I was not born like this, President. I was not.
As a society, we must express our deep gratitude to people like Cheryl Zondi for leading the way in the struggle against sexual violence and affirm our commitment to support and protect them. Let us pledge here and now to begin to change the way we communicate about gender-based violence and sexual assault. Our language must empower and support the voice of survivors.
And you saw in the beginning there how horrified he was when he heard those extraordinary tales. Minister, do you think, when you hear the president talking out like that, when you've got women demonstrating, protesting on the street, that we are at a point of change now?
I think so, because firstly, I've spoken about commitment, but also the language that supports and embrace survivors, and ensure that the system does not oppress women and does not have implications of secondary violence.
Okay.
But one other issue
Go ahead.
is that there is commitment to funding everything that is going to happen. Because before we've been given whatever we asked for or we wanted, but it is not funded properly, and it is setting up women for failure. And therefore, before you even start doing your work, people are complaining about your incompetency, and no one is focusing on the budget. And the summit focused on the budget of all the instruments that are supposed to focus on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women.
Well, I think the focus is on women and seeing that something is being done, really, on the grassroots level. I mean, you did something very dramatic at the summit, and I'd like to have a look at it. And I'm just wondering why you felt that you had to go to that extent of expression and anger to get your point across. All right, sorry, we don't have that there, but you, at the summit, you were showing the scars that you got during the attack. Has that made a difference? I mean, was that cathartic for you, and what was your message there?
Oh, okay. I've been telling myself that one day I want to meet the president and show him how did they do, what's happened to me, what happened to me, and maybe he's the only person who can understand and feel what I'm feeling every day of my life, because I'm tired of getting sick every day. It's not nice, and it's not nice to, I don't know how to call this, it's not nice sometimes to depend on people, because I have to have one person in front of me all the time of my life. So I just wanted the president to help me to get better. I've been arrested since the boys got arrested. So it's time for me to be free. The boys are free. I also have to be free.
I mean, there's that constant victimization, which we touched on a little bit. I want to know more from you, Lebo, about the cultural influences in what we are seeing here.
I think the minister spoke about, patriarchy. But I think we also must understand that because of our apartheid past, we also come from a very violent culture. And culture and religion collude with the sense that a woman's body is not hers, and that we use rape as a weapon, because rape is not sex, it's violence, to silence, to control, to even show our own power over women. And I think what we are seeing, even with the Omotoso trial, is exactly the very perverted nature of how the concept of God and the concept of religion is being used to oppress women, coupled with cultural practices that play themselves out across many cultures, not only African cultures, but across many cultures where our own understanding of the role of men and the role of women is in a particular way, and violence is used to really silence and control in a lot of ways. So the problem becomes when then this control of women become a social norm. And that is why one of the things that we advocated for at the summit was the fact that we must basically invest in social and behavior change communications programs and programs that work in communities that will challenge some of these social norms. And I think Sonke Gender Justice, in the work that they do with men, are beginning to get men question even the way that they were brought up, some of the beliefs that they have. We saw the display today in Parliament with men showing a small finger, as if power is about how big or how small your penis is, and therefore you are seeing that these things are so pervasive from all the levels of society.
Well, I mean, and today the report coming out of the SABC, which showed that some in HR and some of the managers covered up sexual abuse
Absolutely.
in the workplace. So it just shows you how extensive it is. What are your thoughts about that? How should that be dealt with?
Well, Jane, just to take it back to the summit, because we are reflecting on that, I think it's important to acknowledge the work that civil society as a collective has done, the long-term groundwork that has been done, CSOs, community-based organizations at grassroots levels. For example, Shukamisa bringing together, we had many, as civil society, pre-summit meetings on a weekly basis to prepare. And a lot of the 24 demands that came out of the hashtag Total Shutdown movement, which resulted in the summit, was a culmination of this movement and drive towards having government take us seriously. And to your point, one of the declarations is a code of conduct on government and different levels of, corporate companies and civil society and religious leaders and traditional leaders and how they should behave, coupled with the programs to address these patriarchal norms that are ingrained in our society. The Minister also mentioned that we are moving towards a fully costed national strategic plan on gender-based violence, which is really fundamental, and it's something that Sonke and other civil society partners have been advocating for a very long time. It's important, however, to note that we need this overarching multi-sectoral gender-based violence coordinating structure, because at the moment, different departments, while the intentions may be well, meaning it is very fragmented. Department of Social Development at the moment has their own integrated plan on dealing with violence against women and children and LGBTQIA+.
And you've got to deal with so many factors, Minister. I'm just wondering what your comments are about the cultural stereotypes. And this quick survey that I want to read to you, Victims of a Crime survey found that 3.3% of men and 2.3% of women in South Africa think it's acceptable for a man to hit a woman for things like not cooking, not taking care of the children properly. I mean, it just shows you that there's so many plugs that need to be filled, so many issues that need to be dealt with. And how can women protesting on the street help move this along?
I think we need to carry on with a protest, and we must allow a diversity. And that is why we support the multi-sectoral team. But also what is important is that the civil society was able to come up with a shadow report on fighting gender-based violence when a government did not have money and ended up collapsing the GBV Council. And also, it is important that we continue learning from the experiences of SANAC. And if we started long ago, the structure would be able to sustain itself right now, because SANAC gives a space for government, business, civil society to account on what we are all doing.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Sorry, Minister Bathaplili, Dlamini, Pendile Nkube, Justice Khaya Nhlun and Lebo Ramafoko. We'll run out of time, but it was great talking to you all about this. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us.